House of Horror. Title: The Last Door Dwayne Johnson Opened. Part 1. Dwayne Johnson had always believed that houses remembered things. Not metaphorically. Not romantically. He meant it in the same way scars remembered knives, or bones remembered fractures. Wood absorbed voices. Walls held breath. Floors learned footsteps and repeated them when no one was there. That belief was the reason he had driven nearly 8 hours west, leaving behind Chicago's dead gray skyline for a nameless town buried deep in the Appalachian foothills of West Virginia. A town so small it barely appeared on maps, marked only by a thin, broken road and a post office that opened 3 days a week. The house was waiting for him. It sat at the end of Hollow Creek Road, where the asphalt surrendered to dirt and the trees leaned inward as if conspiring. A 2-story structure, Victorian in origin but butchered by decades of neglect. The paint had peeled down to raw wood, and the windows looked less like eyes and more like sealed wounds. Dwayne parked his car and didn't get out immediately. The engine ticked as it cooled, loud in the silence. No birds. No wind. Just the sound of something vast and patient listening. "This is stupid," he muttered, though he did not leave. He had told himself this was research. Material for a book. A man chasing originality in a world already drowning in haunted house cliches. But standing there now, staring at the sagging porch and the front door that leaned slightly inward, as if bowing, he felt something colder than fear. Recognition. He had never seen this house before. Yet it knew him. 1. The letter had arrived 2 weeks earlier, slipped between unpaid bills and a grocery store flyer. No return address. Just his name written in careful block letters. Dwayne Johnson. 3127 North Paulina, Chicago, Illinois. Inside, a single sheet of yellowed paper. "The house on Hollow Creek Road belongs to you now. The past is unfinished. Please come alone." That was all. No signature. No explanation. Dwayne had laughed at first, assuming it was either a prank or some elaborate scam. But when he checked county records out of curiosity, the laughter stopped. The property had indeed been transferred to him. Legally. Officially. Signed and notarized. The previous owner was listed only as deceased. No date of death. No cause. Just that word. 2. The front door was unlocked. That should have terrified him more than it did. Dwayne stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked beneath his weight, but not randomly. The sound followed him, step, step, pause, as if the house were counting. He pushed the door open. The air inside was colder, heavy with the scent of rot and something faintly metallic. Old blood, he thought, and hated himself for the specificity of the idea. The foyer was narrow. Wallpaper peeled in long strips like shed skin. A staircase rose to the second floor, its banister snapped halfway up. To the left, a doorway led into darkness. The door closed behind him. Not slammed. Not dramatically. Just closed. Dwayne turned slowly. His hand went to the knob. Locked. "No," he said, voice echoing too much. "No, no, no." He twisted harder. Nothing. The house had accepted him. 3. He forced himself to breathe. Panic would not help. Panic never helped. He had survived worse things than an old house with faulty locks. Hadn't he? Dwayne pulled out his phone. No signal. Not even emergency bars. The screen flickered once, then went black. Dead. He slipped it back into his pocket, suddenly aware of how loud his own breathing was. The silence pressed against him from all sides, thick and intimate. "Hello?" he called. The word traveled down the hallway, bent around corners, and returned wrong. Softer. Slower. Like something tasting it. 4. The living room was worse. Furniture sat exactly where it had been left decades earlier, draped in dust and white sheets. A couch. 2 chairs. A piano against the far wall, its keys yellowed like old teeth. On the coffee table lay a photo album. Dwayne did not touch it. He knew, with an instinct older than reason, that once he opened that album, something would be unable to close again. Instead, he walked to the fireplace. Above it hung a mirror. The glass was clouded, warped with age, but he could still see his reflection. Except it was delayed. He raised his hand. The reflection followed, half a second too late. Dwayne stepped back. The reflection smiled. He did not. 5. The first sound came from upstairs. A footstep. Single. Deliberate. Then another. Slow pacing, directly above him. Dwayne stared at the ceiling, heart hammering. "This isn't real," he whispered. "This is stress. This is imagination." The footsteps stopped. Something dragged across the floor. Then a voice spoke, directly above his head. "Dwayne." It was his mother's voice. She had been dead for 7 years. 6. He ran. Not upstairs. Never upstairs. He bolted down the hallway, past doors that rattled as he passed, handles turning on their own. At the end of the corridor was another door, smaller, narrower. A basement door. Of course. He yanked it open and stumbled down the steps just as the voice called his name again, closer now, impatient. The basement smelled like wet earth and decay. The light flickered on automatically, revealing concrete walls carved with symbols. Names. Dates. And at the far end, written deeper than the rest, gouged with furious precision. Dwayne Johnson. 1989. No end date. Yet. 7. The door slammed shut above him. Darkness swallowed the basement. And in that darkness, something breathed. End of Part 1. Part 2. Darkness did not arrive all at once. It thickened. The basement light had not simply turned off, it had been taken. What remained was a dense, breathing black that pressed against Dwayne's eyes until he was no longer sure whether they were open or closed. The breathing continued. Slow. Wet. Intentional. Dwayne stood frozen at the foot of the stairs, his back brushing the cold concrete wall carved with names that now felt uncomfortably alive behind him. He could feel the grooves under his fingertips, as if the wall were trying to remind him it knew his shape. "Hello?" he said again, weaker this time. The breathing stopped. Silence snapped into place so abruptly that his ears rang. Then something laughed. It was low and unfinished, like a sound abandoned halfway through learning how to be human. 1. The light flickered back on. Not overhead. Not from a bulb. From the far end of the basement. A bare bulb swung gently, illuminating a narrow space Dwayne had not noticed before, a room within the room, partitioned off by rusted metal bars like an old holding cell. Inside the cell stood a chair. bolted to the floor. Leather straps hung limp from its arms. The floor beneath it was stained dark brown, soaked so deep into the concrete that no amount of cleaning would have erased it. Dwayne's stomach turned. "This isn't real," he said again, but the words felt ceremonial now. Obligatory. Powerless. The breathing resumed, closer this time. Directly behind him. 2. He spun around. Nothing. Just the wall. But the wall was wrong. The name carved into it, his name, had changed. Dwayne Johnson. 1989 to 2013. Dwayne staggered back, his heels slipping on the damp floor. "That's not," he swallowed hard. "That's not right." The ear scratched into the wall pulsed once, faintly, like a heartbeat. Then footsteps echoed from the stairs. Heavy. Slow. Descending. One step at a time. Dwayne backed away until his shoulder hit the metal bars of the cell. The sound of skin against rust rang louder than it should have. The footsteps stopped at the bottom of the stairs. A shadow stretched across the floor, long and distorted, reaching for him. A man's voice spoke from the darkness. "You always did hate basements." Dwayne's blood went cold. He knew that voice. 3. "Evan," he whispered. The shadow stepped forward into the light. Evan Johnson looked exactly the way Dwayne remembered him the last time they'd spoken, tall, thin, eyes too sharp for someone who smiled as often as he did. His hair was still cut short on the sides, longer on top. His jacket still hung loose on his frame. The only difference was his neck. It bent at an impossible angle, as if broken and poorly reset. "You left," Evan said calmly. "That was rude." Dwayne shook his head, backing further into the bars. "You're dead." Evan smiled wider. "So are you." 4. Memory crashed into him without warning. Chicago. Winter. Sirens echoing off brick walls. Blood on snow. Dwayne gripping the steering wheel so hard his fingers went numb, refusing to look back at the alley behind him. Refusing to look at Evan. "I didn't kill you," Dwayne said hoarsely. Evan's smile twitched. "You didn't stop it either." The bulb above them flickered. The basement walls seemed to breathe in, narrowing the space. Evan stepped closer. His shoes made no sound. "You ran," Evan continued. "You always run when things get difficult." Mother noticed. Father noticed. This house noticed. Dwayne pressed his palms against the bars behind him. They were warm. "No," he whispered. "This isn't happening." Evan reached out and placed a hand on Dwayne's chest. His fingers sank in. Not through flesh, through memory. 5. Dwayne screamed. The basement vanished. He was somewhere else. A small bedroom with peeling blue paint. A single bed. A desk cluttered with notebooks. A teenage boy sat on the floor, knees pulled to his chest. Dwayne recognized himself immediately. Across the room stood his father. Drunk. Furious. Unpredictable. "You think you're better than me?" the man shouted. Young Dwayne said nothing. He never did. The memory skipped. The room darkened. A door slammed. Footsteps retreated. Young Dwayne remained on the floor, shaking. In the corner of the room, something watched. Something with no face. 6. Dwayne tore himself free and collapsed against the bars, gasping. Evan stood where he had been, unbothered. "This house feeds on what you hide," Evan said. "You brought it a feast." "I didn't ask for this," Dwayne said. "No," Evan agreed. "You inherited it." The walls shuddered. From upstairs came the sound of furniture dragging across the floor, followed by the unmistakable thump of something heavy falling. The house was rearranging itself. Preparing. 7. Evan gestured toward the chair inside the cell. "Do you know how many people sat there?" he asked. Dwayne shook his head. "Neither do I," Evan said cheerfully. "The house forgets their names once it's done with them." He leaned closer, his breath cold against Dwayne's ear. "But it remembers yours." The leather straps lifted on their own, twitching like excited fingers. Dwayne lunged sideways, slipping between the bars just as they snapped shut behind him. He hit the floor hard, pain exploding through his shoulder. Evan laughed. "That won't save you," he said. "Nothing saves anyone here. It just delays." 8. Dwayne ran. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He sprinted for the stairs, taking them two at a time, ignoring the way they groaned beneath him. The basement door was open now, waiting. He burst into the hallway and nearly collided with a woman standing there. His mother. She looked healthier than she had in years. No hospital pallor. No hollow eyes. She smiled softly. "Dwayne," she said. "Come here." Every instinct screamed at him to run. Instead, his feet froze. "Mom?" His voice broke. "You're..." "I know," she said gently. "But the house is kind. It lets us visit." Behind her, the hallway stretched longer than it should have, doors multiplying where there had been only 3 before. "I missed you," she said. Tears burned his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have come more often." Her smile widened. "Too wide." "You should have stayed," she corrected. 9. Her face folded inward. Skin peeled back like wet paper. Her mouth opened vertically, splitting her face in two. Inside was darkness. And something else. Something that had been waiting decades to be seen. Dwayne screamed and shoved past her, sprinting down the hall as doors flew open on either side, hands reaching out, voices shouting his name in dozens of tones, angry, pleading, delighted. The front door loomed ahead. Hope surged. He grabbed the handle and twisted. It opened. Outside was not Hollow Creek Road. Outside was another hallway. Longer. Darker. Lined with doors. Each door labeled with a name. Each name carved deep. He saw his own. At the far end of the hall stood Evan, smiling patiently. "There's only one way out," Evan said. "And you already know which door it is." Behind Dwayne, the front door slammed shut. The house sighed. Satisfied. The hallway smelled like old paper and wet wood. Dwayne stood frozen, his hands still hovering where the front door handle should have been. The reality of the situation settled over him with crushing weight. The house no longer pretended to follow rules. Space bent here. Memory bled into architecture. Doors existed because the house wanted them to exist. And it wanted him to choose. The hallway stretched forward in a gentle curve, disappearing into shadow. Dozens, no, hundreds, of doors lined both sides. Each door was different. Some were pristine, freshly painted. Others were swollen with rot, their surfaces scarred by claw marks and dents as if something inside had tried to escape. Every door had a name. Carved. Burned. Scratched. Pressed so deeply into the wood that the letters looked like wounds. Dwayne stepped forward. The floorboards creaked beneath him, but unlike before, the sound did not echo. It was absorbed. Consumed. He passed the first few doors slowly. Margaret Hill. 1972 to 1998. Thomas Reed. 1954 to 2001. Lucas Monroe. 1981 to 2016. Some doors whispered as he passed. Others knocked softly from the inside. One door screamed until he moved away from it. "Stop," Dwayne whispered. "Please." The whispers did not stop. They grew more coherent. "Wrong place. Help us. Don't open it. You already did." His own name waited farther down. 1. The door labeled Dwayne Johnson was darker than the rest. Not dirtier. Not older. Just darker, as if it absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The letters were carved with surgical precision. Dwayne Johnson. 1989 to 2013. The date pulsed faintly. Dwayne staggered back. "I'm alive," he said aloud. "I'm standing here." A voice answered from behind him. "For now." Evan leaned against a door across the hall, arms folded comfortably, like someone waiting for a late friend at a train station. "You don't look surprised anymore," Evan observed. "I'm dreaming," Dwayne said. "Or hallucinating." Evan shrugged. "Labels don't change outcomes." 2. "What is this place?" Dwayne demanded. "What do you want from me?" Evan's expression softened, almost sympathetic. "You always ask the wrong question," he said. "The house doesn't want anything from you. It wants something with you." He gestured down the hall. "This place is accumulation," Evan continued. "Every fear you buried. Every moment you chose silence over resistance. Every time you walked away instead of turning around." The doors rattled. "The house feeds on unfinished people," Evan said. "That's why it's still standing." Dwayne clenched his fists. "Then why me?" Evan tilted his head. "Because you survived." 3. The hallway shifted. Walls slid outward, revealing another space branching off to the right, a narrow corridor painted hospital white. The smell of antiseptic burned Dwayne's nostrils. At the end of the corridor sat a door marked "Observation." Dwayne's heart sank. "No," he whispered. "I don't want to see this." The door opened on its own. Inside was a hospital room. Machines beeped steadily. Curtains fluttered in an invisible draft. A woman lay in the bed, thin and pale, her chest rising shallowly beneath white sheets. His mother. Older than the version the house had shown him before. Closer to the truth. Dwayne stepped inside. "I was there," he said defensively, as if the room itself accused him. "I visited. I called." The machines beeped faster. In the corner of the room stood another version of himself, older than the teenage memory, younger than he was now. He stood with his arms crossed, eyes distant, already half gone. "That was the last day," Evan said from behind him. "The day you decided grief was inconvenient." The hospital bed creaked. His mother turned her head. Her eyes opened. "Dwayne," she whispered. The sound shattered him. "I'm here," he said, rushing forward. "I'm right here." But the version of him in the corner did not move. That version checked his watch. "I have to go," the younger Dwayne said. "I'll come back tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. The machines flatlined. The room dissolved. 4. Dwayne dropped to his knees in the hallway, choking on air. "I didn't mean to," he said. "I was scared. I didn't know how to stay." "That's the problem," Evan replied quietly. "You never do." The house hummed, pleased. Doors opened and closed at random, slamming, creaking, breathing. "Everyone here made a choice," Evan continued. "Some small. Some catastrophic. The house doesn't care about morality. Only permanence." Dwayne looked up at his door again. "If I open it," he asked, "what happens?" Evan smiled sadly. "You finish." 5. A new sound cut through the hallway. Scraping. Not footsteps. Something being dragged. From the far end of the hall, a shape emerged. Tall. Crooked. Wrapped in layers of shadow like rotting cloth. It did not walk so much as fold itself forward, joints bending where joints should not exist. Its head brushed the ceiling. Where its face should have been was a smooth surface, except for a vertical slit that opened and closed as it breathed. The doors began screaming. Evan straightened. "Ah," he said. "It's impatient." "What is that?" Dwayne whispered. Evan did not answer immediately. "Then, that's what's left when the house finishes with someone." The thing moved closer. Each step erased sound. Dwayne scrambled backward. "Open the door," Evan urged. "Before it decides for you." 6. Dwayne's hand hovered inches from the handle of his door. His reflection shimmered in the dark wood. He saw flashes instead of a face, moments, regrets, roads not taken. "What if I refuse?" he asked. Evan met his gaze. "Then you stay unfinished," he said. "And the house will take its time." The thing was halfway down the hall now. The air grew colder, heavier. Dwayne gripped the handle. The door was warm. Alive. "I'm not ready," he whispered. Evan's smile faded. "No one ever is." The thing screamed. Not with a mouth. With memory. Dwayne yanked the door open. 7. There was no darkness inside. There was light. Blinding, clinical, endless. Dwayne fell forward and landed on a hard floor, gasping. The door slammed shut behind him. The light dimmed. He found himself standing in a small room with bare walls and a single mirror. In the mirror stood a version of himself he did not recognize. Older. Hollow. Eyes sunken with exhaustion. Words appeared on the wall behind the reflection, carved slowly, letter by letter. "You may leave. One thing behind." Dwayne's reflection smiled weakly. "What do I give?" he asked. The reflection answered in his own voice. "The thing you've been running from." The mirror cracked. And Dwayne finally understood what the house would take. The mirror shattered without a sound. Not outward. Inward. The cracks folded into themselves, pulling the reflection apart like wet paper being swallowed by a drain. Dwayne staggered back, shielding his eyes as fragments of memory, not glass, fell to the floor around him. They did not break. They writhed. Each shard showed a moment he had buried so deeply he had convinced himself it no longer existed. A fight he walked away from. A call he ignored. A scream he pretended not to hear. The room smelled like dust and cold iron. The words on the wall shifted. Choose carefully. The house never gives back. Dwayne's heart pounded so hard it hurt. I don't understand, he said aloud. What does it want? The answer came from everywhere at once. Not a voice. A pressure. A knowing. The house did not want an object. It wanted resolution. 1. The room expanded. Walls stretched outward, peeling back like layers of skin to reveal something beneath, older, darker, older than intention. The light dimmed into a dull amber glow, revealing a vast chamber beneath the house, its ceiling supported by thick wooden beams blackened with age. This was not a basement. This was a foundation. Dozens of figures stood motionless around the perimeter of the chamber. Men, women, children, all facing inward, all unfinished. Their faces were blurred, like memories left too long in the sun. At the center of the chamber was a structure made of doors. Hundreds of them, fused together, interlocked. Each door led nowhere, and everywhere. Evan stood beside it. This is where it started, he said quietly. Dwayne stepped closer, legs trembling. Started how? Evan placed a hand on the wood. With a family that refused to leave. 2. The house showed him. Not as a vision. As a record. The year was 1913. A mining town sat where the forest now stood, its air thick with soot and desperation. Men descended into the earth every morning. Some never came back up. At the edge of the town stood a house, newly built, proud, defiant against the rot surrounding it. A man lived there with his wife and 2 sons. The mine collapsed. The town demanded sacrifice. The house listened. 1 son vanished. Then the other. The house grew stronger. The mine reopened. People survived. The town called it coincidence. The house called it hunger. It learned, Evan said. It learned that pain anchors structures. That unresolved loss builds foundations stronger than stone. The town died. The house remained. 3. The vision faded. Dwayne stared at the door structure in horror. All these people, he whispered. All these people were carrying something they never put down, Evan replied. Guilt. Fear. Grief. Rage. Evan turned to him. You carried yours very well. The figures around the chamber began to move. Slowly. They reached toward the structure, pressing their palms against doors that bore their names. Some cried. Some begged. Some simply waited. 1 figure stepped forward. It was Evan. Not the version beside him. The real one. The Evan who died in that alley. His neck twisted. His eyes were full of accusation. You left me, the figure said. Dwayne shook his head violently. I was scared. I was bleeding, Evan replied. The house pulsed. 4. The words returned on the wall behind him, larger now, deeper. You may leave. 1 thing behind. Dwayne understood. The house did not want his body. It wanted what kept him alive. If I give it what it wants, he asked Evan quietly, what happens to me? Evan's expression softened. You walk out, he said. You breathe. You age. You live. And the cost? Evan hesitated. You won't remember why. The truth hit harder than any threat. No guilt. No grief. No regret. No growth. He would be free. And empty. 5. The chamber shook. The tall, faceless thing crawled through one of the doors in the structure, folding itself into the room. It was closer now. More solid. The unfinished were running out of time. The house was starving. Dwayne stepped forward. I know what I have to give, he said. Evan looked at him sharply. Are you sure? Dwayne nodded. He closed his eyes. I leave behind my fear of staying, he said. The house went silent. The words carved themselves deeper into the wall. Accepted. A scream tore through the chamber, not from the thing, not from the dead, but from Dwayne himself. His knees buckled. Memories burned. Not erased. Rewritten. 6. He remembered standing in the alley. This time, he did not run. He remembered sitting by his mother's bed. This time, he stayed. He remembered every moment he chose silence. And every moment he chose differently. The house recoiled. The tall thing shrieked, collapsing inward, unable to anchor itself to someone who no longer fled his own pain. The door structure cracked. One door fell away. The front door. Sunlight spilled through. 7. Dwayne stumbled forward, gasping, and crossed the threshold. The house screamed. Not in rage. In loss. The door slammed shut behind him for the final time. He stood on Hollow Creek Road, morning sunlight warming his face. Birds chirped. Wind moved through the trees. The house looked smaller now. Older. Weaker. Dwayne walked to his car. His hands were steady. He did not look back. 8. 3 miles down the road, Dwayne slowed. Something felt wrong. He searched his mind. There was a space there. Clean. Quiet. He knew something had been taken. He just couldn't remember what. Behind him, deep in the forest, the house waited. Hungry. Learning. Dwayne Johnson did not dream about the house. That was the first thing that felt wrong. For weeks after leaving Hollow Creek Road, his sleep was deep and uninterrupted. No nightmares. No half-remembered screams clawing their way up from the dark. He woke each morning calm, rested, and faintly hollow. As if a room inside him had been emptied and locked. He returned to Chicago by nightfall, slipping back into his life like a man stepping into a coat he had worn for years. The city felt louder than he remembered. Sharper. People brushed past him on sidewalks, unaware that something fundamental had been carved out of him and left behind in the woods. Friends commented that he looked better. You seem lighter, one of them said. Dwayne smiled politely. He did not know what they meant. 1. The changes were subtle at first. He no longer hesitated. Where once he would overthink, retreat, delay, now he acted. He spoke up in meetings. He confronted people instead of avoiding them. He accepted invitations without the familiar knot of anxiety twisting in his chest. Fear no longer anchored him. And without fear, regret had nowhere to grow. He knew, intellectually, that his mother had died. He could recall the facts. The dates. The funeral. but the weight was gone. The ache that once lived behind his ribs had vanished, leaving behind something disturbingly clean. At night, he stared at his ceiling and felt nothing. Not peace. Not grief. Just absence. 2. The first sign that the house had not let him go came 3 months later. Dwayne was walking home from work when he noticed a building on the corner of his block he had never seen before. That alone was strange. He had lived in the neighborhood for 6 years. He knew every store, every abandoned lot, every boarded-up storefront. Yet there it was, a narrow, 2-story structure squeezed between a laundromat and a closed deli. Paint peeling. Windows dark. A porch that sagged slightly inward. The sight of it stopped him cold. His heart did not race. His palms did not sweat. But something deeper stirred. Recognition without memory. Dwayne crossed the street slowly. As he passed the building, he noticed a small wooden sign nailed beside the door. For sale. Beneath it, written in careful block letters, was an address. His address. 3. He laughed. The sound echoed strangely, even in open air. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. The door creaked open behind him. Dwayne froze. A familiar sensation brushed against his spine, not fear, but the absence of fear being tested. He turned. Inside the building was a narrow hallway. Longer than it should have been. Lined with doors. His breath caught. "No," he said quietly. A voice drifted from within. Not Evan's. Not his mother's. His own. Older. Calmer. "Come inside." 4. Dwayne stepped back. He should have run. He knew that, abstractly, the way one knows fire burns. But without fear, knowledge had no teeth. He stepped forward instead. The door closed behind him. The hallway smelled like old paper and wet wood. The doors whispered. But not urgently. Patiently. At the end of the hall stood a mirror. And in the mirror was a version of Dwayne Johnson who looked complete. Not hollow. Not empty. Whole. "You left something behind," the reflection said. Dwayne frowned. "I paid the price." The reflection nodded. "You did. But prices appreciate." The walls shifted. Doors appeared where there had been none before. New names carved deep. Fresh. Recent. The house had grown. 5. The reflection stepped closer to the glass. "You taught it something," it said. "That fear is not the only anchor." Dwayne's stomach tightened. "What do you want?" he asked. The reflection smiled sadly. "What you took with you," it replied. Understanding bloomed too late. The house had let him go because he was useful. A carrier. An invitation. Every person Dwayne had influenced since leaving, every decision made without hesitation, every confrontation, every bold step taken without fear, had left behind others unfinished. The house followed those fractures. It always had. 6. The mirror cracked. Not violently. Deliberately. The hallway stretched, folding space into itself. Dwayne felt something stir inside his chest. A flicker. Fear. Real fear. It hurt. He gasped, clutching his chest as memories surged back, his mother's hand going cold, Evan's blood on snow, the suffocating terror of staying when running felt easier. The house recoiled. The doors rattled. You can't take it back, the house whispered. Dwayne looked at his reflection, eyes burning with tears. I can carry it, he said. That was never the problem. The reflection hesitated. For the first time, it looked uncertain. 7. The hallway shook violently. Doors slammed. Names screamed. Dwayne stepped forward and pressed his palm against the mirror. I choose to remember, he said. All of it. The mirror shattered. Light tore through the building. The house screamed, not in hunger, not in rage, but in something close to panic. Dwayne fell. 8. He woke on the sidewalk. Rain fell gently, blurring the streetlights above him. The building was gone. The laundromat and deli stood untouched, their walls whole and unbroken. No sign. No door. No hallway. Dwayne sat up slowly, heart pounding. This time, he felt everything. Fear. Relief. Grief. Resolve. He laughed through tears. 9. Years later, Dwayne would write about unfinished places. About how some houses are built on foundations made of silence and avoidance. About how they wait for people willing to carry what others abandon. His book would sell well. Too well. Readers would write to him. They would say things like, your words felt familiar. I dreamed of a hallway last night. There's a house near me that wasn't there before. Dwayne would stop responding. Because deep down, he knew the truth. The house does not need walls. It does not need wood or doors. It only needs people who refuse to stay with their pain. And it is always learning. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.